guys, welcome to Yoga for Normal People. You'll notice I have quite a few props today. We're gonna do some lower and slower stuff. I'm actually working on like a stiff neck, so I can't really like turn to the left. Um, and so we're gonna do a little bit of foam rolling. We're gonna get 2 blocks and a blanket and just start to work out some of the tension in the shoulders and, enjoy the benefits of a little bit of a movement practice. I'm gonna come down onto a block to sit, actually. I'm going to turn that block up so it's on its middle sitting so I can sit back. If that doesn't work for you, feel free to just come down to an easy seat on the floor. And just for a moment, we're just going to kind of orient and get settled into the space. So since we're all practicing at home, we're obviously very familiar with our own spaces. But what I'd like you to do is just start to find a long spine and maybe close your eyes or lower your gaze. And we're just going to start by a little bit of orienting, a little bit of checking in, a little bit of noticing what's going on in our nervous systems. I've noticed that the last couple of days I've felt pretty tired, all kinds of strange aches and pains coming up in my body. So I'm trying to listen to that and let it be instead of like, oh, I'm just going to push through, which is really sort of more my nature. And so right now I'm just feeling a lot of conversation, if you will, with my body. My knee is hurting, my shoulder's hurting. I've got like a bunch of stuff going on. So today's practice is just going to deal with sort of how to address that stuff, how to work around it or how to work with it as we're kind of navigating life. And as you close your eyes, just start to check in. See if there's any parts of your body that are starting to speak to you a little bit this morning. If there's things that are like, oh, hey, I've neglected that part of my body for a little while. Like for me, it's been like, oh, I'm going to run, I'm going to walk, I'm going to ride the bike, I'm going to do all these things. And my left knee has been like, hey, we need a break. So it's talking to me this morning. My shoulders are talking to me. Even really my head, I'm a little bit scattered. So we're just going to work with that energy and start to kind of recenter it and bring it down. So as you're sitting, just what I'd like to do is just start to rock back and forth. You can just kind of shift your weight left to right, or you can start to do a little bit of like a half moon rock if you want to do a half moon rock back or a half moon rock forward, whatever feels good. Just sort of starting to feel the shift of your weight into the pelvis on the floor and on the blanket. And as you're rocking, you can kind of open your eyes and just keep your gaze kind of lowered. Maybe open your eyes wide. Take a look at what's around your room. Just kind of allowing the rock to either get bigger or smaller. Whatever feels kind of good in your body here. And just allowing the breath to move in and out. And you don't have to rock very big. You don't have to move in big movements, but just a little bit of easeful movement of rocking left to right. You can always just rock straight. I'm liking the half circles, so that's where I'm going. And then once you've rocked a little bit, what I'd like you to do is just take your hands behind your back and clasp both hands, interlace your fingers, and we're just going to start to continue that rock. But this time, as you rock, what I'd like you to do is drag your knuckles down towards the earth, opening your heart towards the front of the room, and just moving left to right. And if you'd like, you can start to lift your gaze to about like midway up the wall and start to make those circles a little bigger. Maybe starting to turn the head to the left and right. And seeing if you can continue to drag those knuckles down towards your pelvis, opening through the chest, but keeping your chin lifted. So keeping that space between your chin and your chest kind of open. And then go ahead and come back to center and just release the interlace of your fingers. Take your hands to your thighs if you're sitting cross-legged. or to your thighs if you're sitting kneeling. And then all I'd like you to do is just start to roll the shoulders up, down, and back, and just start doing some shoulder circles here. Taking a deep breath as you rise with the shoulders and exhaling as you drop them. And you can close your eyes, you can go inside. You can reverse the direction of your shoulder circles if you like. And just feel the sense of your hands moving on your body. Everything is just like creaky and talking to me today. I'm not quite sure what is going on. Body's like, hey, we need a break. And if that's happening for you, just listen to what's going on and be like, okay, gotta give the body a break. Gotta listen to what's happening here. And then go ahead and come back to center. And you're going to just take your hands to your thighs or out towards the ends of your knees if you're seated cross-legged. And all I want you to do is start to do a little cat-cow here, seated. So drawing the belly button towards the spine, rounding the head towards your lap. Maybe just kind of shaking the head back and forth while you're in this rounded position, stretching out the back of the neck, stretching out the sides a little bit. And then inhale, lift up, lift your chest, draw your elbows back, maybe lift your gaze. And then round. And once again, just kind of take a little bit of fluidity here, a little bit of movement into the neck, into the head. And then inhale, lift the heart, lift the gaze. And exhale, round. Once more, wag that head. And then inhale, lift the heart, lift the gaze. Draw the elbows back. And then go ahead and come down off your block. If you're sitting on a block, you can place that off to the left or right. And we're just going to come down into one of our familiar sort of 90-90 sits. If you're sitting on a blanket, you can shift that out of your way just for a moment. So we're going to take the left knee forward. So the left shin is parallel to the side of your mat and your right knee back. And take that left hand off to the left side. And then here, just start by taking your hand to your hip, and we're just going to roll that hip forward and back. Let the gaze move. You can keep your head neutral. I'm thinking about sort of lifting the back of my crown of my head. So that space like right here, right on top. And just starting to move that energy. Just allowing the breath to come as it feels right. Kind of radiating that heart forward and back, and letting the gaze track with the movement of your body. And then we're going to move the hand up to the rib cage and do more of this twisting, gazing off to the left and right. And then we're going to take the hand up to the shoulder, touch the shoulder as you open towards the back of your mat, and then reach your hand forward and maybe turn the gaze down as you come forward. So you're just opening the chest up from the back to the front, keeping again that head nice and neutral, just allowing things to kind of open up and move here. We'll do 2 more. And then go ahead and face that left side of your mat. Hands come to plant down. What I'd like you to do is press down into the inside line of that left leg and see if you can twist through the midline, lifting the heart, maybe lifting the head if it feels good. My neck is not happy with that, so I'm just going to keep it in a neutral position. Take a couple of breaths here. Notice how your breath has to change to move in this shape. And then go ahead and on your next exhale, lower down to your elbows. See if you can drop that right elbow down towards the mat. Maybe gaze between your hands. And once again, keep pressing through that left knee, taking that twist just a little bit deeper. If you'd like, you can just start to shift your chest forward and back, just a little bit of kind of rocking here. Again, kind of keeping that gaze centered. Maybe between the hands, maybe between the elbows, just finding a nice neutral spine. Take one more inhale, one more exhale. And then go ahead and walk yourself back up to your palms. And we're going to come back to center. From here, go ahead and just take that left or that right knee, pick it up, place that right foot on top of the mat in front of your left. So you're coming into this Lord of the Fishes pose. If this is comfortable to cross over the thigh, you can. If you'd like to take that right foot in front of your left shin, you can, just depending on how sort of closed you'd like to be. And we're just going to take an open twist. So we're going to twist away from that knee. So here you're going to twist over to the left and gaze over that left shoulder. Drop that left shoulder back and just see if you can lift the crown of your head. So you're opening away from that knee. See if you can drop the right shoulder down and away from your ear. And I'm actually actively pulling on my leg so that that shoulder can drop. And then go ahead and come back to center just for a second. And we're going to gaze over towards the right side, this time turning towards the knee and gazing back over that right shoulder, maybe lifting the heart. Taking a nice deep breath here. And then coming back to center. Go ahead and take that right leg out long, that left foot in towards the inner groin, and you can take it at whatever angle you like. So if you'd like to widen the stance, feel free to. If you'd like to narrow it, that's also great. And here, if you notice that your knee is kind of hyperextended, you can always take a blanket and just give it a little prop. I have a knee thing going on, so I'm going to prop my knee up on this side. I may prop it on both. We'll see. So once you're here, just see if you can find a nice tall spine. Just a nice long lifting up out of the pelvic bowl. Crown of the head goes towards the sky. And then from here, we're just going to start to rock. So what I'd like you to do as you rock is imagine getting that space between your breastbone and your chin a little bit bigger. So maybe the back of your head moves back towards your shoulders a little bit, but just rock and see what happens. Now I'm noticing this stretch into the inner groin of my right leg. I'm also noticing the sensation along the back line of my neck and head. That's totally okay. We're going to work into that with the roller and stuff. Get some of that stuff going. We'll do 2 more of these, just allowing the chest to kind of guide the movement. Finding length. Take a couple deep breaths. Let your eyes scan around the room. Just orient. Notice where you are. Notice what you see and what you take in. And then go ahead and come back to center. And we're just going to cross that right foot in front of the left, come to an easy seat for a second. And what I'd like you to do is take your left hand off to the left side, plant that palm, and you're just going to start to reach that right arm up over your head, over towards the left side of the room. See if you can walk your fingertips out, drop the elbow just a little bit, and reach even further. So you're really grounding down into the outside edge of that right hip and reaching from those right fingertips down into the right hip. Take a couple breaths here. And then what I'd like you to do is start to bend that top elbow and gaze back over towards the right. So you're opening the chest towards the right side of the room and then coming back, maybe shining the chest down towards the floor. So that similar movement that we did when our legs were in 90-90 sit, but here we're just doing it in a different format. So again, just kind of flossing the shoulders here, opening the chest, looking over towards the right, and then looking down towards the left. And really press down into the palm that's on the floor so that you can really feel that length into that right side body. Just kind of hang out on that reach for a moment. Take a deep breath and then exhale and come back up to center. Just kind of notice if there's any sort of left to right difference. Just take it in, acknowledge what's happening, and we're going to switch over to the other side. So here, you're going to go ahead and take your left shin parallel to the side of your mat. Your right shin, we're going to flip that. Your right shin to the front, your left shin back. We're coming over towards the right side of the body. So go ahead and plant that right hand. Take your left hand to your hip, and you're just going to roll forward and back. So shoulder is opening back, maybe towards the ceiling, and then rolling forward. And just keeping our hand on our hip to give a little bit of that feedback, to notice how our spine is turning. Notice how we're feeling in this movement. And then just slide your hand up to your rib cage. Start to drive those ribs around. Let your eyes stay open here. Let your eyes gaze. Just take a look around what's happening. And then from here, you're going to take your fingertips to your shoulder. And as you gaze back, you're gazing towards the ceiling and then reaching forward with your palm face down. So just lifting the heart and then shining the light of the heart towards the floor. So open and close and open and close and open and close. You'll notice we're going to be staying on the floor a bunch today, not a lot of standing. Since my body's feeling tired and having all kinds of aches and pains, I figured this would be a nicer kind of low and slow practice for us. So we'll do 2 more of those. There's 1. And then there's 2. And then go ahead and take that left hand down next to your right. And here, just press down into the mat. Press down into that inner line of the left leg. See if you can twist just a little bit. And here, if you'd like to lift your gaze, you can. I'm keeping my head in neutral just because I've got this neck thing going on. Take a couple of breaths. If you like, you can kind of wiggle the base of your skull back and forth. See if you can find a little space. And then on your next exhale, just go ahead and lower down to your elbows. And once again, I'm just going to keep my gaze in between my hands, in between my elbows. And I'm just going to start to move my chest forward and back, just a little bit of that rocking movement. So we're also not going to put a lot of pressure on the shoulders and the arms today. When your shoulders are tight, it's, not always a great idea to do a bunch of downward dogs and things like, chaturangas and whatnot. This should help kind of move some of the stuck energy, stuck muscles, and it'll help ease any kind of discomfort you may be having, if you're like me. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then slowly come back to stillness. Plant your hands, press yourself up. And here we're going to take that left leg and cross it over the right. Plant the foot on the right side of the knee. So you're coming into this sort of Lord of the Fishes pose. And if your left glute comes off the floor, you can always use that blanket to just slide underneath. And the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and take your left hand, grab your right knee or left knee, and you're going to gaze over towards the right side of the room. So you're opening towards away from the knee. You're opening to the more open side. Take a few deep breaths. And then you're going to just come back to center. And you're going to twist to the opposite side. So this time you're twisting over towards the left. Gazing back over that left shoulder if it feels good, only if it feels good in your body. And I'm actually pulling with my right hand on that left knee just to give myself a little bit more depth into that twist. And if you'd like to kind of imagine like waggling the base of your skull left and right, like you're leading with your chin. So kind of pressing the chin over to the left and then pressing it over to the right. And then come back to center. And you're going to unwind your legs. Take that left leg out long. The right foot comes in towards the groin. And once again, you can decide to kind of clock that left foot around, open or as closed as you like. Go ahead and take that blanket, if you're using it, and just prop up that knee if you have the same kind of hyperextension thing going on that I've got. And then once again, we're just going to start that rocking. So keeping your gaze kind of lifted, keeping your eyes open, maybe about mid-level across the room. so that you're scanning at about eye level around your space. And just noticing what may be coming up for you. So like the inside line of this leg is really tight for me. So when I'm coming forward, I feel like a little bit of resistance in terms of like how far forward I want to go. So I'm just going to kind of play with that edge. Notice what that feels like, what feels good. Notice if there's like a place that I want to hang out in, maybe like right about here sounds really good. And just be there for a minute. Take a couple breaths, breathe into the stretch. And then maybe start to rock again. Just kind of taking a, really intuitive approach to this little flow. Listening to the body, slowing down, taking a moment. And you'll notice that I'm keeping my gaze kind of down. If that feels good for your head and neck, do that. For me right now, that's where I am. That's what we're going to do. And then from here, go ahead and come back to center. And you're just going to bend that left knee, come into a cross-legged seat if you need that blanket underneath. I'm keeping my left foot in front of my right. I'm going to lean forward and just tug the flesh out from underneath my pelvis. Find a nice long seat. Nice, tall kind of position here. Lifting through the crown of my head. I'm actually drawing my chin back towards my sternum, just to kind of keep a real nice neutral spine. And then doing that kind of wagging of the chin, like you're leading with the chin. So your chin gets pulled over to the left and then pulled over the right. Kind of a little like, I don't know, bobblehead wag, like if those little dash things that you used to have in the 80s, I guess. And then go ahead and just take your right hand off to the right side of the mat. And you're just going to reach that left arm up next to your ear and maybe bend deeper into that right elbow. See if you can really sink that left hip down towards the mat. And then we're just going to open the chest towards the left side and then close the chest towards the floor. So just, again, bending the elbow, opening the chest. It's a smaller movement than what we do when we're in that 90-90 sit or what's called deer pose with the legs. This is a little bit less, there's less rotation going on because our pelvis is anchored in a different way. So you have a little bit less sort of movement through the spine. So we'll just go ahead and do 2 more of those. And then come back to center. And what I'd like you to do is take your blanket and you're just going to place it on the middle of your mat as a place for your knees to come. I'm going to come around and face towards the right side of the mat. And then you're going to go ahead and grab one of your blocks and take your hands to that block. I have it on my lowest setting. Hands are narrower than my shoulders because I do have my hands on that block. And I'm going to take my knees wide, big toes to touch. And all I'm going to start to do is shift my hips back and then shift them forward. And it doesn't have to be a big movement. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on the hands. But here, keeping your head in a neutral position. So gaze comes between the thumbs and then all the way back down in between the knees. And if you find a place that you're like, all right, I'm going to hang out here, go ahead and do that. So I'm going to sink my hips back towards my heels, let my chest start to move towards the floor and keep my hands on that block. Maybe my forehead comes to the floor, maybe it doesn't. But here, I'm feeling a stretch down into my lats, into the space across the back of my neck, the back of my head. And I'm imagining breathing into that space. I'm breathing into the back body. And you'll notice if you're looking at the screen that I am kind of shifting my weight left and right, a little bit of a rock here. Feels good. So if that feels good to you, go ahead and do that. I'm feeling this stretch into that space between the underarms and the rib cage here. Go ahead and take your palms to touch, thumbs point towards the sky, and press down into the outside edges of your forearms. And as you rock, just notice what that feels like. Notice that stretch underneath, that kind of heart melting sensation. Take a couple breaths. Really feel the back body broaden. Feel your shoulder blades slide around the ribs as you breathe. And I'm actively pressing down into the outside edges of my forearms here. So, like, my muscles are activated at the same time that they're lengthening. Take a couple more breaths. And then go ahead and come back up to a kneeling position just for a second. Let your shoulders roll down your back. Lift your head. Maybe just shake your head no. Find a nice long spine. Find that sort of midline, that place where you feel nice and stacked. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and slide that roller out of the way and grab our blankets. And with your blanket, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and roll it up. So if you have a beach towel or a blanket, either way, just roll it up so you go towards the fringe edge if you have a fringe. And I'm going to roll mine completely up. If this turns out to be too much for you, you can unroll it a little bit, but we're going to place it in that same place that foam roller was. And for me, what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to roll that foam roller up so that it's going to come up underneath the backs of my knees and my calves. Just for a moment here, I'm going to just kind of roll out the calves before we come down to lie across that blanket roll. And this can feel really good. What I'm doing here is just kind of almost like I'm doing a swimmer's kicking the feet. As I move one foot up, that roller is being held in place by the opposite leg. And it just kind of feels good on the backs of my calves. Just a little bit of movement here. And then what I'd like you to do is go ahead and start to lower yourself back onto that support of that blanket. Now, where I am right now, this blanket is too high. So I need to just kind of scooch it down. We're looking to get it right in line with that bra strap, that same spot that we were working on with the foam roller, just with a slightly less firm piece of equipment. And then here, I'm just going to move that roller up so that it's behind my knees, supporting my legs. And I've interlaced my hands behind my head, and I'm just letting my chest lift. And here, all I'm going to do is just tap my feet so that there's a little bit of movement, a little bit of rocking sensation into the back of the heart. And just see if you can let your elbows really open up. Draw those shoulder blades towards one another along the edges of the spine, but open up towards the sky at the same time. And then when you're ready, you can bend your knees and start to just slide that foam roller out from underneath your knees so it's out of your way. And then you're just going to roll over to left or right and press yourself up and off that blanket, but move slowly just because, we're shifting positions, we're shifting the orientation of gravity on our bodies, and you're just going to move that blanket out of the way. Or alternatively, you can come into your Shavasana using that blanket as a pillow. For me, I'm going to come down to lie flat on the floor. I'm just going to move some props around so I have a little space. And once I come to lie on the floor, I'm just going to let the back of my head sink. I'm going to let my arms come out to the sides, away from my hips. You can take whatever position you'd like with your arms, whether that's cactus or arms behind the head or down by your sides. You can even put your hands on your body and just start to notice your breath there. We're going to close out practice today by doing a little bit of both grounding and expansion. So while those things sound like they are two completely opposed things, we can actually hold them both in our awareness and our attention and draw on the resource of the earth and gravity, as well as the resource of the sun and light and air, to just give us a little fortification for our day. And then slowly, when you feel ready, you can gently start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe brush your thumb along your fingertips. Maybe start to roll your wrists, roll your ankles. Take a nice, long, good morning stretch. Take a deep breath in, and on your exhale, bend your knees and roll over to the left or right side. Just finding support in whatever is beneath you right now. Just kind of noticing any strange sounds that come up. If you hear my dog barking, it's because the mailman has come. It's been noisy here today. Take a couple breaths. And then when you're ready, gently roll your shoulders more towards the earth and press yourself down to come on up into your easy seat. And I'm going to prop myself up on a blanket today. If you need to make whatever adjustments you need, feel free to. But, do your best to kind of stay in that space of both being supported by the earth and held up by the light. And here, once you've found your easy seat, whatever shape that is, you can take your hands to your thighs. Maybe tuck your chin slightly towards your chest. And as you notice the contact of your pelvis against the ground, imagine that you're drawing the energy of the earth up through your legs, through your pelvis, up into your belly. Feel the energy of the earth's force field just move into you. Feel it fortify and strengthen you, give you calm and support. And then send your awareness to the crown of your head and imagine it opening like the leaves of a tree or petals of a flower. And feel that light and warmth pour down through the top of your skull, down your spine, down into your rib cage. Feel those two forces meet and mingle at the center of your body, around about your diaphragm, around about your low ribs. And as you notice that, just see if you can send your awareness around both those sensations at the same time. And take a few moments here just to notice what that commingling feels like, what that alchemy feels like. And then when you're ready, go ahead and gently take your hands to heart center. Press your palms against one another. Let your thumbs rest against your sternum. All of the love and light in me bows to and honors all of the love and light in each one of you. Namaste.